Hey everyone, good to
Keeping
see
keep
you. Matt and I are just catching up. This topic kind of comes from this funny perspective that Matt and I have because Matt's in Australia, so he's going into fall, and of course we're going into spring on the northern hemisphere. And we almost can look at. I feel like Matt's seeing our future. He can just tell us what it's like to be walking into, what we're going to be walking into 6 months from now. Um,
totally that the Australians are like Nostradamus. But yeah, it's also our financial year ends in the end of June too. So we are just locking into Q3 now. So we have like the double perspective. So we get a financial year, but then a calendar year as well. So we play it both ways.
It is kind of funny. Here, I'll just stop the screen share. But it's kind of funny because we get this moment where you're feeling an end of year stress, right? Because you're feeling going into Q3 and Q4,
Mm.
and you have Easter coming up, you have these holidays coming up, so things you don't have a lot of influence over. So even like there's only really 5 months left for you because there's a holiday month wrapped up in the next, or it's only 3 or 4 months, three last month. Yeah,
2 months.
2 months.
April's
It
a
can't even
mess.
be 2 months.
April
Oh my
April is a
gosh.
total mess. Like we've got
Yeah.
like just 3 long weekends, everyone's school holidays, so just May and June just come on really hard and fast, and it's
Yeah.
it's freaky.
So you're absolutely feeling into your stress, and that feeling of like, it's really too late to do very much for this year. Like you're kind of capturing the pieces, but you can't work out a full strategy before into the financial year and boost revenue or change up. You can do something crazy drastic. But if you're and this is what this reset is about, is like, we're really only just 3 months behind us in a 12-month calendar. We have enough data and a good enough feeling of like what the year might look like. Because if I'm honest, I could probably even from this point forward understand what the next quarter is going to look like. It's not too hard to predict that on how the momentum is going within a marketplace, the needs and trends that are taking place. So I could almost feel like half the year is under control. And for us, it's like the good part of the year is ahead. The next 2 quarters are also very fulfilling. There could be very busy with projects. There's a lot going on. Summer will slow us down a little bit, but I have enough time that I could actually reset my annual plan if I wanted to. I can look at things and say, well, now that I know how the first quarter went, I could predict more revenue.
Mm.
Um, or oh, now that I know that the industry is changing this way, this I could come up with a marketing and strategy, positioning strategy, and put myself out there and start taking advantage of these competitive marketplaces and get my company and my brand in that conversation. So there's a kind of a funny like paradox that you're feeling the end of something and we're feeling like the opportunity to beginning of something.
Yeah, but it's still yeah, there's still always chance to change. Like I think in terms of positioning, like you maybe you start the year or you come out of the summer holidays in Australia with like all these big ideas, but now it's just like lock into one. Like let's just push one, see if that works. If it doesn't work, we'll change it in July and pivot to something else. Because yeah, there's
Yeah,
definitely time to change.
you're writing it out. Well, good to see you. It's cool that um, we get to have these comparative feelings about where we are in the year
Yeah.
and that you're living out our future. We appreciate that about you. It's good also to see all you guys. Feel free to jump in, ask any questions as we go along. That the concept of this reset, we just explained it a little bit here, is that with the 3 quarters left in 2026, there's really a lot of time that you can act out a strategy or create a new strategy and enough time to act it out before the year is over. And many of us miss this opportunity because we already planned the year just in January. It doesn't feel like too long ago. So why would I change anything now? Because I barely know how much of that's going to play itself out. But we do have a good set of data to start making decisions and enough time to act it out. If you wait, and I think a lot of people wait till mid-year before they start getting a sense of how they feel about things. And really now you only have 6 months to have any major influence on your year. And if you're in any position where you want to be thinking of an exit with your company and showing a long-term value proposition, you have to collect a series of positive, net positive years in order to show long-term value. So if you wait till November, if you're not very profitable and wait till November, you have no time left to influence the profitability of your company. But if you want to stay on top of it and you're aiming for that 15%, 20% margins that often feel impossible, this is the moment that makes it possible because you haven't got too far into this year and you have some good data to figure it out. So I thought we'd just go over a couple of things to look at, ways of auditing ourselves, and kind of just a sense of where the industry's going to see if we can't help you with a refresh or a reset button for your year if that needs to play itself out.
Yeah.
How about this? Okay, I'll throw one at you, Matt. I'm going to I have 4 areas. I made notes. I'm going to find those notes here. 4 areas I thought were pretty interesting to kind of look at in this Q2 window.
Let's
Because
do
this
it.
is that pivot month. The 4 areas are revenue. So now that you're kind of looking at, the beginning of the year, you can still understand, or you start to understand what kind of deals sizes, the deal mixes are going to be, how your pipeline is doing. If you have a sales pipeline, you're looking at it. You know how frequent you have to reach out before a new project comes in, or how often a client is putting you on pause or not. So you're getting a sense of timing, and you might have a better understanding of and predictability of what your revenue is going to look like. So revenue is one thing we can look at right now. Positioning, that's where I was talking about. Like this is something you can see you might start to feel like what's the trend of 2026 that I'm going to have to start putting myself out there and being seen differently by our clients to kind of work with us differently. So what
Mm.
is that positioning strategy or what that might look like? Um, the next one is really interesting because it's hiring. This is a moment where you can actually bring someone on, get if you have a sense of confidence, or you know, not avoid that thing of that moment of like, if I do it now, I'll have a better impact on my bottom line. The team will be more healthy or whatever by letting go of somebody you might need to be letting go of. So, hiring is a great kind of thing to look at now. There's no pressing holidays. There's no pressing issues. There's a lot of runway for somebody you're letting go. It sounds odd, but it's a good timing to make that change. And then lastly, just like outreach. Um, I called it activation. It's a term my brother uses in marketing, but it's like activation, things that I could start doing. I can go to conferences, I can meet with people, I can put a travel plan in place, go visit people, and so on. So those are the 4 areas I thought if you took a look at that and know you had influence over that, you can make a major impact on this year with the time you have left.
Definitely. I hope everyone's got those post-it notes stuck up on their wall to just kind of like throw darts at and see which one's going to work.
Which one's gonna work for them?
Yeah. I think in terms of your first point, Tim, like what I found interesting this year is seeing the size of jobs that are coming out. Like obviously, this year's been a roller coaster already. Who knows what's happening with the global economy? But and AI and all that and advertising industries imploding. But I'm definitely seeing certain patterns in the shapes of jobs that are coming into our studio.
Last week, it was the whole week for sure, but I remember having a conversation with a client on Thursday. And every conversation I had had from Monday to that Thursday call was good news. Like someone won a project, a client had reached out had talked to for a while. Somebody said yes to a position that they're looking for, and it was a high powered position. And so I remember going into a conversation on Thursday. I told that client, "Hey, listen, I am batting 100% good news, so I expect this to be good news for the next half hour or two." And it turns out it was like their profitability is higher so far in Q1 than it has been for the last 2 years. I mean,
Mm.
it's like they're hitting 20% profit right now. That one last meeting I had. So um, that I feel like there is a positive moment taking place, and that gives you a totally different feeling than maybe just January when you didn't have that sense. So it makes you think differently, constructively on the kind of projects, how often someone's saying yes, and how frequently those yeses are coming. Um, so I'm with you. The one thing
Yeah.
I've noticed also is I don't know how if all of you are feeling it, but it does feel like a little bit of a pattern where those projects coming out of nowhere are showing up again. I almost felt
Mm.
like, if I was trying to budget a $2 million year with my business and I knew where 1 million was going to come from, I knew the second million was just going to come. Like you could just feel that way about the year.
Mm.
And then the last 4 years, I feel like literally every dollar I got of that 2 million, I had to fight for. There was no magic dollar that just showed up. But this quarter feels like a little bit of that. Like no one reached out. Someone just on LinkedIn asked for a meeting, and all of a sudden I have a $25,000 project in house. I feel like that's happening more often in this last quarter than I've seen in a while.
Yeah, no, there are some odd bunnies popping up, and yeah, from some unpredictable places,
Yeah.
for sure. And looking at some of those trends does impact what you're talking later about who you might need to hire. Because if you can see certain shape jobs coming in, that's when you start putting bets going, I'm going to need an art director to work on more pictures, or I'm going to need that high-end 3D guy to help me do these things. But that does impact. Yeah, looking for those patterns now in the shape of jobs, the type of jobs, what they're asking for, what you're fighting for, certainly impacts your later points. Positioning. Let's talk about positioning because I like that topic.
Well, then you talk about positioning because this is your topic. Positioning is always something that could be improved, but now that you have your ear to the ground and what the year looks like, what kind of positioning moves can I do to make a positive influence?
I'm a big fan of going out there and meeting people in person. So maybe view it as a testing ground. Maybe if you've got a bunch of work, make a new deck, assemble how you look, and put it together under one tagline. Like just like my studio, we're pushing hard on craft. So we had a big open studio event. We had like a lot of agency people coming in, and we're showing this, and then we're going, how far can we push this craft line? We can then put that into PR and media and stuff like that. But as you're looking at that craft line, you then want to go, well, how does that affect how we talk about AI? So that may change later in the year, depending on what happens with technology, what happens with what clients are asking for. So I think picking one line and going with it, but viewing it as a test bed and starting to, instead of just kind of polishing and polishing this positioning line and waiting till it's this perfect thing and planning this big website rebrand, make a deck, pick an angle, go out there and test it with some people and see how they respond to it. And if they don't like it, change it. But if you're in just finished Q1 and you've got 9 months ahead, I would be testing these things and working on it rather than figuring out some complex strategy. So trying to be agile with your positioning and also trying to be single-minded with a view to
Yeah.
change.
I mean, clear-minded, right? Like just the idea of like being able
Clear-minded.
to
Yeah.
focus on that.
Yeah.
I there was a group I was working with recently, and they'd done a pitch for a very large project. I want to say, if I were to guess, I'm going to say it's like 600,000 is what they thought the project was going to be. And then the client basically called them and said, "You guys are way out of the ballpark. Like we don't have that kind of money at all, so you lost the project." And I'm proud of these guys. They basically told the client, "Well, wait a second. Clearly, you guys had something different in mind than we had in mind. What is the difference? If you only had something 200,000 in mind, we're not just asking for more money, we're thinking about the project very differently than you. Maybe we should open up the conversation and you should not award it to that other person. Maybe we need a better conversation." And they followed through. The
Mm.
client followed through. It turned out that they could basically take something off the shelf that they had done in research and development, pitch that to the client for a much higher efficiency than anyone was expecting, and they re-won back the project.
Mm.
I'm guessing at like 250,000.
Mm.
So it wasn't the 600 what they thought it was, but they kind of fought for the right to be heard, and the client listened and opened up in dialogue and did it. And when I think of positioning, I think of being able to walk in the room and be able to do that. They kind of like this is who we are and this is how we function. So if we're off, how are we thinking differently that you should take advantage of? And then we should rethink this together. And the
Yeah.
client not being so pressured, not so being so, absent-minded in the conversation, but wanting to figure out the right solution and invest in it. Again, a very positive move. And I think when we think about positioning for the year, we can think of ourselves that way. Oh, if the industry is moving in a certain direction or clients are asking for something new, how do I step up in that moment and say, wait a second, this is the way it needs to be done, and we know it. We're the right person to work with you. We can follow through and get that job done, and not let the client always just, make the assumption and then dismiss you, but be open to
Yeah.
that dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say your story will definitely change in the second half of the year. So just get out there and start telling it now and make it a simple, clear one.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going to show a tool in a couple of minutes too of where all this stuff, all these pieces come together. But let's just get a little bit more detail on the hiring and letting people go category.
Mm,
So your team size is really, really important. One thing you should have visibility on is the size of your team in comparison to the revenue that you have. We've talked about this in past weekly briefings, but it's been a while. If you take the total revenue of your business and divide that by the number of full-time staff. That gives you a revenue per staff number. If you're in the US, as a like just as a thought process, we like to have that number be between 200,000 and 300,000 per person. It's just gives you a sense of what kind of flexibility you have with your team or how strict you kind of need to be with them. So, for example, if you're at $200,000 per person, it's time to start using freelancers and not hire anybody new. You're already kind of at a low end of the numbers, and if you brought another person, the burden would be so high, and your flexibility isn't there. That if you were to lose a project or two or miss a beat, you'd be burning money really, really fast inside of your company, probably before you knew it. Um, if you're on the other end of that, if you're at 300,000, it's a great time to bring on somebody because it kind of means that you're paying a higher rate, freelancer rates and staff rates, but also you're missing some of the efficiency of a staff person. The retained knowledge on a project by project basis, or be able to put a person on staff on multiple projects in a day or in a week, where freelancers don't often have that kind of allocation. So that's an easy way of looking at that. I throw that number out there because there's this great moment that's happening right now that the industry has changed enough that there are some major talent in the marketplace.
mm,
And this might be a good time to do an acquisition of new talent, especially if they are revenue generating. A creative director you don't currently have, a salesperson or an advanced senior producer slash account manager, or something like that you might not have if you are looking at right sizing your team and bringing someone on. There's a great moment right now, and other people
mm,
aren't thinking that. You can be one step ahead by a month or two, be looking at that talent, and if things continue into Q2 as they are in Q1 and things are going well, you can say yes sooner. Then what other people often do is wait till all the winnings are off the table and in their pockets before that make that decision. You can be proactive, and if it plays out right, you can be responsive and grab some of that talent. Um, so that's really, really great. And then, as I kind of said earlier, it's also a sweet moment that you could take advantage of the season and be able to maybe let somebody go. And there are times where the person's been at your business for years and not producing anymore the way they used to. There are sometimes just internal struggles with team. There's just reasons why they're not thriving, you're not thriving. Or in some cases, we have to right size our team because we might be hitting that maximum and not have that flexibility. You're just looking at a season where someone else, as you let that person go, there's a marketplace available where they can easily get a job. So that stress and burden,
mm.
and I don't know, guilt that we have in that moment is there. Also, not a holiday season and all those other things that we often wait till the end of the year to do that reset. What a hard time to be letting somebody go right before a holiday season in the winter. So this is that moment you can do it. Um, there's just like a lot of like good vibes right now that it's not too close to summer, too close to winter. When people often do it, it's not the right time. So that change and that reset could really reset your team, give you some new energy and new life, adding or subtracting somebody. And it's a good time to look at that and to make the best of 2026 if those are decisions you can make or need to make.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent out there right now, and a lot of people looking. So
Yeah.
it is a great time to try and to keep your eyes open.
Yeah. There are people that are looking and there's people that are buying. Like people are being hired up too. So like the market is very, very happy right now
Mm.
for that play. So um, those are never the easiest decisions to make because there's a lot of stress in either letting someone go or bringing them on. But kind of look ahead and kind of do that work and you'd be happy with it. Um, the last one is just this idea of activation. So getting yourself out and doing it. I think this is the easiest one. And if anything we do at RevThink is encourage you to get out and do something. I'm about ready to take off and go to Spain for a week. I'm going to spend four of those days at off in Barcelona. Then I'm going to go to Serbia to see one of my clients I've been working with for years, and I don't often get to Belgrade, so I'm going to go there. And then just do a little bit of traveling in Europe, saying hi to some of the European folks. Bob, I'm going to be in Paris, so I'm going to go eat pastry with you, I'm sure, somewhere, some gorgeous place. Bob is a pastry snob, so if you ever go to Paris, hook up with Bob. He's going to take you to the best pastry places on the planet. Um, but like just go out there and do some of that face-to-face stuff is amazing energy, and you'll pick up new conversations and new ways of positioning and understanding what's going on in the marketplace and things you can do. It's great, and the whole year is ahead of you. If you want any recommendations, I'm happy to kind of work with you and sit down and have a conversation with you about what's good for you. But my favorite are the European ones. Spain for off. Digital Design Days is in Milan in May. Another really great one. Great creative energy there. Um, Paradiso is happening in October, so that's something that is a worthwhile investment. Ollie could testify that was really amazing for him last year. So there's great moments there, and others. So my encouragement is get out there and do something, activate.
Yeah, lock it in. I mean, I think when things are uncertain, it feels like something that you put on the back burner, but pick one and lock it in.
Yeah,
We're going to Annecy this year, and it's certainly. I mean, coming from Australia, the planes are a nightmare, but we're going to do it, and we're going to find a new way around the world, and we're going to get over there. And I think it's important to lock this in because the world is not going to stop,
yeah. I also love
and you
that,
need
like
to be
when
a
you
part
guys
of
go to
that.
Annecy, it like makes a hard deadline for you guys to get that pitch together, get your product together, because you're going to be face to face with a bunch of clients. You have to kind of get your marketing material together. You don't just show up and not do your homework. So
Oh
that's
yeah, yeah.
another great way of, and it's good bonus. Like after doing all the hard work, then you get to go to Annecy. Like not a bad way of like playing out the rest of that strategy.
Oh yeah, but there are 17,000 people that go to Annecy. It's bonkers. But yes, everyone's in their mid 40s to mid 50s and likes yelling about animation and drinking wine. It feels very age appropriate for me. So I feel like that's where I need to be.
Okay, I want to. Many of you know this because you've been through either our foundations class or seen this or just watched enough weekly briefings. This is the bingo card. I mean, actually, the reason I did this like this is if I paste this in the chat right now, you can all make a copy of this here. Yeah, I just threw this in the chat. So when you hit that, you'll hit a landing page like this, hit make a copy, and it'll allow you to make there it is, make a copy locally. That way, because it's a Google sheet, it's shared. That way, no one else is seeing our stuff. So this is your own local copy. You can name it whatever you want to also. I'll just put sample for now for me because I make enough of these. I have enough of them around. And this is what we call a bingo card. You'll see later on why I call it a bingo card because it kind of like looks like a bingo card as we play this stuff out. But I want to walk you through how this works. This is a great exercise to do right now. We often do it in Q1 when we're working with our sales team to get annual goals. but it's a great moment for a reset to kind of look at financial goals and financial planning yourself. So the first thing I do, by the way, the way it's left laid out is the one with the number of step one, step two, step three at the bottom. These are blank items. And then next to every blank item is an example of how it would look. Um, so I'll walk off the examples just so I can walk through how this works. But right here, I just took a report from QuickBooks and I pasted it here. This is revenue per client for the last 12 months. What I did is I sorted then by the highest revenue to lowest revenue. And what I get here is a percentage of revenue. So 311,000 is 14% of this 2,274,000. What I've done is I've kind of, you'll see here I have these are not greened out here, but I did it for my own visibility, kind of just look at the first client, how much revenue I get from that first client. But also this green, if I play itself out, this green right here is 80% of the revenue. So you can see down at the bottom here, it says 79%. So this company right here did a total of 11 projects for 1,790,000 or 80% of their revenue. So 11 projects got them 80%, and they did a total of too many 40 projects. So the other 30 projects that they did really only generated 20% of the revenue. And I like to point that out just because I feel like a lot of people make unhealthy decisions and do everything. And you really start to figure out like some of these clients just don't pay out. And if you saw this year over year, just it's a really quick, easy analysis of clients you probably should have a more healthy relationship with, or to be more healthy yourself, you can just say no to them. It also gives you kind of a tipping point of like, if you said no to projects under $40,000, or let's just say 30 to be conservative, you might think you're saying no to all this, but it's not true. What you start to do is start looking at projects that are in this range here, and you move them up to that 30 or $40,000 mark. So you are actively marketing, positioning, talking about, and graduating these clients up to the higher level. What that means to you is more revenue, same work, same amount of work. And that's always the goal. Get more revenue for the same project. So this is a really quick analysis of who you work with, where the money comes from, and the type of projects or size of clients that they are. If I take that analysis and I do it on this next sheet here, it might look something like this, where I say, what I often get is about three $30,000 projects a month. And I get about two $40,000 projects a quarter, and I get three $50,000 projects in a year. This is all editable, by the way. You can change these numbers across the top. Just you don't, I just want to point this out because I think I forget to tell people, you actually type out the whole number, 50,000 here, but it just formatted to say 50K because it looks better in presentation. So I can actually, in my own board, say like, hey, if I'm going to do a minimum of $30,000 projects, I'll do 30 here. I'll put 40 here. I'll put 50 there. I'll put 75. I'll put 100. And then I'll put 150. Okay. So I'll reset these numbers here and I'll say, based off the clients that I have here and the type of projects I work with, this Amazon actually is $300,000, but it's actually $30,000 a month for the whole year. So if I went here to my example here, I'd go $30,000 a month for the whole year. That equals that $360,000. You can also see visibility of how one client month by month just gives you a sense like that. And you can start filling that in here too. So like I might actually get another one or two projects related to the other clients, about $40,000 each. So really a bulk of my work, it's about 24 projects, comes from two clients or two size of projects, I should say, not clients, two size of projects, $30,000 and $40,000. I can also predict that I usually get one $75,000 project a quarter and one $100,000 project a quarter. And then annually, there are things that once a year or twice a year, I might get a $150,000 project. So that's all this bingo card is doing, is breaking down the size of projects and the frequency of it to see how fast it adds up to this. What it does is also resort your mind of the types of projects, sizes, and frequency that you're looking for. So I'm trying to get out of that everything, everywhere, all of it's good, blah, 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 blah. Like it doesn't really work that way. If we really start focusing on this, then we can be more strategic on the clients we go after. So I like this just simple resorting, trying to figure out the number of projects I need and what that revenue looks like. Um,
Mm,
if I upgrade that by 1 cent here, I can actually put the names of those clients and therefore the size that they often give me and get a sense of what I would get from these clients here. And it gets rid of that kind of stress. What I like to point out here is you already know the names of the clients that you're going to get the projects from. Now you also know your sales pattern, strategy, and outreach to see if you can't get this as a goal. In this case,
mm.
can I get 5 Microsoft projects in this year? One, four at 10K and one at 25K is what this example is showing. So it just breaks down that sales into strategic people, positions, and outreach that you can do. And the last one here is the quarterly one. And quarterly is almost the same idea. I just, instead of listing it out like this, where it's a list of names and I plug it this way, I actually break it down and put the name of the client there. So this is saying Amazon's going to give me a $10,000 project in Q1. Amazon might also give me a $50,000 project in Q1, so I put them twice. Or if I, let's say if I can almost imagine them giving it to me, yeah, every quarter they're going to give me a project, so I put them in here every quarter. So just another way of looking at like the people that I often work with, how frequent they come, the size of those projects, and see if I can't map it out to get me into a total overall revenue goal I'm looking for. And now I have a sales strategy and marketing strategy to look forward. My encouragement is, I often do this at the beginning of the year to do this now, almost like
Mm.
put here what Q1 looks like for you. And then you're standing right now at the beginning of Q2. You can probably even almost predict Q2. So you can, with some confidence, fill in this too. And now you really get a sense of Q3 and Q4, and you have plenty of time right now to, and it would have a major influence over these 2 quarters. So if I'm looking for growth or moving Amazon from 10,000 to 25,000, I might be able to say like, no, my goal is to make this happen. I don't want $10,000 projects at all by Q3. So now I have the time and relationship build and I can travel and I can pitch things. I can have influence over that to move these vendors into higher categories for the year. So that's the pivot point we're in right now and the opportunity for that reset. Um,
Yeah, and you should do that with your producer, with your 2IC, like whoever's involved in selling and making decisions with you. Do it. Don't just like the big at Deloitte we used to call this like where to play and how to win. And people would, but we'd only do it once a year, and everyone would get a bit delusional and think that actually made that $1.6 million when you had to go, oh, that's right, it's not real money, it doesn't exist yet. But I think if you can, do this with the people who are helping you build your business and go and meet the clients, you can test what they think. It's an awesome exercise to actually get their input
yeah,
because they may challenge you to actually, no, that's a bigger number. We could push harder there, but it gives you a really good focus, and it's so much better than just sitting around with a spreadsheet going insane by yourself.
it feels like what it feels like when you're working with a team is this that you're cleaning out the closet. So you're just grabbing everything and getting it out of the closet for a moment to relook at it and then put it back systematically so you know where it belongs and then what's missing. Um,
Hmm.
like, oh, there was supposed to be a bowling ball right there. I have a big empty spot. Where's the bowling ball? You can do that with clients. I'm supposed to have a $50,000 project right there. I haven't identified them. Now I'm going to start looking for a $50,000 project. And if I have 8, 10 weeks to find it, I will most likely be able to understand the client who's qualified often gives it to us. I have that historical roadmap I can look at. The outreach says worked, the type of projects we've done before. And I could find that clear focus and then reach out and grab it because I'm looking for it. And the
Yeah.
minute you're looking for it, you often find it. So it just gives you that clarity to do that. And it's a
Mm.
great moment right now, right here at the beginning of Q2 to do that. You will win the year at this moment when other people are sleeping.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I'll propose this, by the way. If you haven't done this before and you want to do this as a group, I have a small group that meets on Thursday mornings, 9 o'clock Pacific time. You're all welcome to join. We will do a bingo card together. Ollie, you're already in that small group, so you kind of know how it goes. We every week we deal with a different topic, but we might as well jump into that. So uh, email me, tim@revthink.com or stephanie@stephanieRevThink.com and say, hey, I want to be part of that group tomorrow, and we'll kind of bring you in and do it. Um,
Yeah, man.
but anything that we can do to get your healthy, this 2026 healthy, we'd love to do that for you.
And make it a game, make it fun, and play it with people. That's awesome. Bingo is the future, Tim.
I'm telling you, bingo is when you have a multiple people, everyone fills out their own bingo card, then you add them together, you might be looking at twice the revenue projection than you even had a goal for. And not
Yeah.
everyone will hit it, but at least you have a sense of what everyone's work and perspective is. So you can have a lot of fun with that.